Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Sorry, we're running a little bit late. How are we feeling this morning? Doesn't sound good? Can we try again? Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
I always do that to them. They're used to me now. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to put up the program, but let me just quickly run through what's today's program. So we have both Ajahn Brahmali and Ayya Karunikā here to do this whole day event. And I hope you know what are we doing today. Are we doing a Dhamma talk? Are we? Huh? Someone said something? Chamari, what did you say? Raise fund. Raise fund for who? Lucky? Raise funds to build a nuns monastery, a training center. Yeah, for the nuns in Sri Lanka. So yes, you guys are at the right event. Okay, so we actually have a very busy day today. So I hope you all will. I hope you all had your breakfast. You have your coffee. You see us feeding the monks and nuns with coffee this morning, because I need to, make sure they can keep going. Okay, so we will start off. Actually, if you have not noticed, we actually have a pop-up store outside. Okay, so we have very dedicated volunteers who have actually made all these items for sale, and they do it on their own accord. BSWA doesn't pay for anything. And whatever that they sell for today would go to the Dhammadita funds. Yeah? So please have a look if you haven't done so, and buy something and help to donate to this fund. So I think they will still continue maybe after this session, and depending on whether there's any interest, they may close early. But I think there was a very nice drawing as well that I was very interested. I might keep the drawing if that's not so for the auction later on, another time. Anyway, so please have a look at the items, and I also want to say a word of thanks to the people outside. See, they're still sitting outside. So thank you to Pei Chin and Sue, and I don't know all of them, but thanks for doing this, and I think Rina also contributed some items. Okay, so let me just quickly go through today's event. So for now, and until 10:15, both Ajahn Brahmali and Ayya Karunikā will do an introduction to the project to let you guys know what this is all about. After that, we will break for dana, so that's for about 2 hours. We will come back at 12:15. What time do we come back? Do we come back at 12:30? No, we come back at 12:15. Yeah? I have to repeat that because that's when I'm going to do the quiz. So please, everyone must come back at 12:15. Ajahn Brahmali, Ayya Karunikā, are you guys going to be here for the quiz as well? See? No, Ajahn Brahmali is like that. No. Yeah. Then I had to send him an email and say, Ajahn, you should really be here, and then he will show up. Okay, so 12:15 is when you all come back for the quiz. That will be for an hour. Then we'll do a 15 minutes break. Then after the break, we will have a nuns forum. We'll have three additional nuns, yeah, coming from Dhammansara. So it's very exciting. We did something similar during Ajahn Brahm's 50th anniversary as a bhikkhu. So this is something similar, but today, of course, we're just talking about nuns. So the monks will take a backstage. No, except for Ajahn Brahmali, because he's still sitting in the front of the stage. Okay, all right. So we'll do the nuns forum. That'll be from 1:30 to 2:45. Then we'll do a break. And at 3 o'clock, because today is what day is today? Today is the 4th Sunday. So every 2nd and 4th Sunday of the month, we do a sutta class. So we are also doing a sutta class, but this time around, it's not just Ajahn Brahmali teaching the sutta, but Ayya Karunikā will be joining him as well. And they have already picked the suttas, and it's related to nuns. Yeah? So it's, do you all know what suttas? Only Shane knows what sutta because he's going to show it. So the suttas that we're going to teach, there are 2 suttas. It's SN 5.9 and SN 5.10. Okay, so they're all related to the nuns. In fact, I thought the first one was quite interesting. It's called Sela Sutta. Okay, and this project, Ayya Sela, is also involved. Very appropriate. Yeah.
The other one should really be the Karunika Sutta, but unfortunately we couldn't find one. There wasn't one.
Yeah. Because when I saw the sutta, I was like, oh, it's Sela Sutta. Okay, all right. So, so the sutta class will start at 3 o'clock, and we might have other people joining us, the usual sutta, the usual people who come for the suttas. But so it will run from, it will start at 3 o'clock, continue until 4:15, depending on how many questions we get. Then that's when we will then have a cup of tea, and then you can chat with the monks and nuns if you want. So this will be the program for today, but at any point in time, if you feel that you're only coming from a morning session, that's fine. If you want to come in, for those online watching us from home right now, if you want to come in for an afternoon session, that's fine too. We don't mark attendance. You don't need to register. Yeah? Okay, so there are a few other things that I just want to quickly mention before I pass the mic over to the monks and nuns. So, as you know, we have started to raise funds for this project maybe a couple of months ago. I can't remember when we started.
Roughly around 2nd of April.
2nd of April, yeah. And so BSWA is actually just holding on to the funds, which will then be transferred to the Daughters of the Dhamma project. I'm not sure whether they have set up the bank account, but they are in the process of doing it. But anyway, so BSWA is just holding on to the funds. So we're just kind of like collecting the funds and then donating and then passing it to them when the funds are ready. So we have made donations easy for everyone. So for today, let me just make everyone aware of this. You will see donation tablets all over in Dhammaloka, which is quite common. But for today, whether you use the donation tablets or you drop cash into the donation box, they will all go to this project. Besides the donation tablets in Dhammaloka, so donation tablets here, we have 2 in this hall. We have another 2 in a vihara. We also have 2 more donation tablets in the community hall. So there's no excuse not to see those donation tablets. They are very prominent and like orange color, right? So, and if you don't know where to find them, because that's really easy, you just need to pick how much money you want to donate, take out your credit card, you just tag, and then the project receives the money. And if you want to put cash, we have donation box here, our usual spots. We also have Lillian and Kim helping to do look after another donation box that is just at the entrance to the hall. Besides that, we also have QR codes. So for QR codes, you could take your phone, go to a camera, scan the QR code. It will open up a link. You just press the link, then it will bring you to a donation site where you just need to enter your credit card details. It's really easy, right? Yes? Okay, very good. So there are many different ways, and if anyone feels very generous today and wants to donate a large sum, then you can speak to me, because we would prefer, if you're making any donation maybe above $1,000, that it goes directly into our bank account, so we don't need to pay those charges to the payment system. Yeah. So just so that everyone knows, and I think Ajahn Brahmali has mentioned this in the past as well, last night I had a look to see how much we have collected. So please remember the number. Remember I said there's a quiz this afternoon? Hint, hint. So based on what I checked last night, we have collected so far $146,259.65. Okay, so it's 146,259.65. Okay, and I haven't, because there are still money collected through Stripe, which is a QR code that people use the credit card, and Stripe will I think we set it such that it comes into our bank account on a weekly basis. So this number will change, but for now, the number is 146,259.65. You got it? Okay, very good. All right, the other thing I want to also mention is we have also kind of like announced that both Ajahn Brahmali and Ayya Karunikā will teach a 9-day retreat. You know how in Jhana Grove we have 9 days retreat, we have weekend retreats, and recently we have also 5-day retreats. And Ajahn Brahmali, I'm not sure, can I have a show of hands? How many people have attended a Sutta retreat in Jhana Grove? Ajahn, these are your fans, they're all here. And you know how we have been like begging Ajahn to do another 9 days retreat, and he has no time, Ajahn, to do another 9 days retreat because he's always traveling. Okay, not always traveling, but he travels quite frequently. So it is actually quite rare, I must say, for Ajahn Brahmali to do a second sutta retreat, not sutta retreat, a second 9 days retreat. But on top of that, it's not just Ajahn Brahmali, it's Ayya Karunikā as well. Not sure if everyone knows Ayya Karunikā. We know her when she was in Dhammansara, but now she's in Santi, and she's been in Santi for how many years? 4 years. Have anyone visited Ayya in Santi? Oh, that's 1, 2, me. Yeah, Michael as well. So if you have the opportunity, go visit Ayya in Santi, beautiful. So for Ayya to be teaching a retreat in Jhana Grove, that's even more rare. She just did a weekend retreat, which is very nice. People are asking her to teach a 9-day retreat instead, you know. So we decided to do a 9-day retreat by Ajahn Brahmali and Ayya Karunikā next year in March. And I spoke to Ajahn Brahm about it, and he's like, yep, okay, good idea. And he suggested that we auction all the spots. And all the money would then, all the funds collected would then go to this project as well. So the auction has been open for quite a while, and we did say that we will close the auction sometime today. I didn't put the time because I'm not sure if you know how auction site works. You say it finishes at a certain time, then it will close, right? But people will wait until the very last minute, you know? So we decided we're not going to tell people what time we close, but we say we're going to close sometime today. I think there's not too many. Last night when I checked, I think there were slightly more than 10, 15, yeah? So we still have a lot of spots because I actually put 50 spots out for auction. We will decide later on what we do. If we can't fill the rest, maybe we'll do another auction or for people to tell us how much, you know, or people just come and they donate depending on what they want to do, yeah? But for those who are interested to secure a spot, please go into our auction website and put in your bid. So that's the retreat auction, and we will announce sometime today that auction is closed. Then we will close it. Okay. So I mentioned about we have the retreat auction. So we are trying to do a lot more activities in order to raise funds for this project, which is actually was having a conversation with Ajahn Brahmali, and I told him, oh, you know, we can do this, but I didn't think I'm going to do all this, but I did. So I need all your support so that we can have a good place, a nice place for the nuns, and for that matter, any female practitioners to practice in Sri Lanka. So besides today's event, we also have the next big event coming up, which is Ajahn Brahm's 74th birthday. And as you know, we usually have a silent auction for his birthday. So for this year, Ajahn Brahm has also agreed that all the funds collected for his birthday will also go towards this project. So we also have another auction, and that auction will just be items. We already have quite a number of items that people have donated for this auction. So this auction will also go towards this project. On top of that, we also have the November workshops. I can't remember the date. First week of November or something? Mid-November, yeah. Okay. And we will let you know shortly who the teachers would be, but for now it will be Ajahn Brahmali, Ayya Karunikā, Ajahn Mudito, and Ajahn Munisara. That's confirmed. And Venerable Sunyo. Yes, yeah. Ajahn Sun. Oh, wow. Okay. So we have very good teachers for the workshops, and it's been a while since we have the last workshop. So, and during this workshop, we're going to have something. We are going to have a mini event as well, and that is a hair shaving, a head shaving. So I think there has been some interest to do an additional fundraising event. should I mention that? But Chamari has kind of like suggested she's going to shave her head on that. In fact, she wants to do it today, but we said, okay, maybe postpone it to November. So I would encourage anyone who is interested, doesn't matter whether male or female, you are more than welcome to join this event. So we will do that in November. What else is coming? Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else that I should mention? Oh, Ajahn Brahmali wants to shave his head. You're very cheeky. Okay, all right. So with that, let me hand over to Ajahn Brahmali and Ayya Karunikā to tell us a little bit more about the project this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, everybody online watching. So, without any further ado, because Leha did a good introduction, let's just get into our dialogue, or rather interview or interrogation. I don't know how to call it. Let's see how it proceeds, but I do have a question because, so Ajahn Brahmali, what inspired you to initiate this project in Sri Lanka, a project for women and nuns? Can you tell us about it?
I can, yeah. Okay. Okay. One more. Okay. Excellent. I think we have 3 microphones and 2 people. That's unusual. Whoa. Is it on? It is on. There we are. Okay. So good morning, everyone, and very nice to have you all here. And the main purpose, just like Leha was saying, is actually to have more like an information session and to make people understand what this is about, to inspire people a little bit about this project. Fundraising is secondary. Yeah, fundraising can be with a D or without a D, so it depends on how you look at it. And both aspects of fundraising are equally important, that we enjoy these things and that we have a good time. So the most important thing is to present this project, and then the funds will kind of come gradually over time. It's kind of remarkable what Leha was just mentioning, that already we have collected $146,000, and there's more in the pipeline. We know that as well. So it's extraordinary. It's only been open for about 6-7 weeks, and already so much is coming in. A lot of people have been very inspired by this so far, and that's kind of remarkable. But we want to give a proper presentation of what it is about, so that people understand, and the more you understand, the more you tend to also be interested, and then often more support comes in because of that. So just enjoy and relax and just see how you feel about this project as we go along. So this whole thing started when I was in Sri Lanka about just over a year ago. And first thing I'd like to say, I love to go to Sri Lanka. I go there usually every couple of years, and it's just such a beautiful island. It has, when you go there as a Buddhist monk, you feel at home straight away for so many different reasons. One of the reasons is simply because it is very beautiful, very forested, very green. You feel when you come from Australia, it's like, almost the exact opposite. Here is kind of semi-desert almost. Over there, very, very lush and very green. And so you kind of feel like you are stepping into the forests of the suttas. The suttas, they talk about the aranya, the wildernesses, they talk about the forest groves and these kind of things. And Sri Lanka feels a bit like that. You kind of get the feeling that you're walking into the sense of a Buddhist culture, the Buddhist ascetic life almost. You're walking into that when you go away from the city especially and you walk into the countryside. And one of the wonderful things about Sri Lanka is that it also has, when you go up into the hills and the mountains, it has a very temperate climate. And so one of the ideas, when you go up there, I myself been into these hills and I've been staying in places like Bandara Vela, which is kind of 1,000 meters above sea level. Perfect temperature, like 25 degrees all year round, just really super duper nice, and very green, and lots of tea around. There's tea plantation there, so this is kind of, so we're going to put this place is going to be close to the tea plantation, because then there's more chance of getting Ajahn Brahm to go to Sri Lanka. So we have to be strategic here. Yes, when he goes there, he can bring even more kind of more marketing value for this center here. And so this is one of the things that I have been very attracted to by Sri Lanka myself, just the natural environment, very powerful. But it doesn't stop there. The other thing which is very beautiful about Sri Lanka is the Buddhist heritage. Yeah, when you travel around, you travel to Anuradhapura, which is the most important of the ancient capitals in Sri Lanka, which was a capital for over 1,000 years. And then you have other capitals like Polonnaruwa, and then sites just everywhere across the island. They say that wherever, if you put your spade into the ground somewhere in Sri Lanka and you start digging, very soon, just under the surface, there's bound to be some kind of ancient archaeological site there. So you can't really dig anywhere because straight away you hit some kind of Buddhist site into the ground. And that's marvelous. When I was there a few years ago and I visited Ajahn Nisarano. Do you all know Ajahn Nisarano? Yeah, so Ajahn Hasapanna, one of Ajahn Brahm's disciples, and he was living in Sri Lanka for a long time, I think 10 years or something. And I went to his caves. He had one of these, Lena it is called. Lena is like an overhang cave. And this cave had been inhabited by monastics for 1,500, 2,000 years. It had some ancient inscription above the cave, because there's kind of rock face above the cave. Had an ancient inscription saying something, I can't remember exactly what it was, some kind of Dhamma content. Here resided Arahant so-and-so. No, it didn't say that, but something like that. You get the feeling that the Arahants, they would have stayed in caves like this. That's kind of the feeling you have. And the whole of Sri Lanka is a bit like that. There's caves scattered everywhere. There's inscriptions going back over 2,000 years. There's a feeling of being steeped in Buddhist culture. You're part of this kind of historical movement going over 2,000 years, for goodness sake. It's kind of extraordinary to be there. And this gives you a feeling that you belong there when you go there as a monastic. And of course, the third reason why Sri Lanka is also such a nice place to visit when you come from a non-Buddhist country is the Buddhist culture that is still thriving and very, very strong in Sri Lanka in the present day. So you see lots of monks over there, you see lots of nuns, you see lots of obviously lay people everywhere, and you feel that you're part of something much larger, something that is still prospering and doing very well. Sri Lankan Buddhist culture is everything from the ascetics who live in faraway monasteries, forest monks, and maybe some forest nuns as well, and all the way to the city monks and the city dwellers. And you have this whole kind of range of various Buddhist practices, Buddhist universities, and everything. And so when I go to Sri Lanka, I find it really nice. I feel at home. I think I'm kind of half Sri Lankan. Usually I say I'm half Norwegian, half Australian, but also half Sri Lankan. Half Sri Lankan, half Norwegian, half Australian. Well, I'm 150%. I think I'm 150%. I think so. And then a little bit kind of big. Yeah. Anyway, you know what I mean. So we are complex people, right? We are kind of built up out of all of these things because we have probably been living in these countries in the past. And so when I was in Sri Lanka last year, usually when I go there, I teach a retreat and I give some Dhamma talks and things. And very often on these retreats, monastics also come on these retreats. Nuns come on these retreats. So lots of monks in the audience, lots of nuns in the audience. And then I have interviews with them. And I talk to them. And I ask them, how are you? How is your life as monastics in Sri Lanka? If I talk too much, please cut me off. And you're the boss tonight. So I'm just supposed to support you. So I bring them in and then I talk to the nuns and they tell me about the situation for nuns in Sri Lanka, and they say actually it is very difficult. Even though Sri Lanka has kind of been at the forefront of having lots of nuns, they have been kind of leading the way in many, many ways, still the facilities and the training that is available to them is not great. It is still very much lacking. And so many of them didn't really know anything much about how to train properly. They didn't really know all that much about, where to get inspiration from Dhamma sources. They didn't really have any proper meditation teachers. I asked one of the nuns, well, how do you meditate? First of all, they were really good meditators. I was really impressed by the results they were getting. But then when I asked them, well, who is your teacher? They said, oh, my teacher is this book. What do you mean a book is your teacher? How do you... Having the right kind of thought at the right time. Yeah? It has to be at the right time. And so I didn't know if it was the right time. So I brought everyone together. I said, all the core lay people, the nuns who were there, some of the monks who were part of this. And I always feel a bit nervous when you have to present an idea, because usually there's going to be some naysayers, right? You're like, yeah, no, it's not going to work. Yeah, there's no way. You guys, you live in Australia, it's too far away. You can't really do anything. It's too difficult. The government is not supportive. Yeah, it can't be done. But actually, what happened when I got all of these people together, it was incredibly positive. It was like, yeah, this is a really good idea. There was not a single naysayer in the crowd of nuns, monks, and lay people. That's incredibly rare. Have you ever had an idea and presented it and no one is against? It's unheard of. It's like, what? And I was so positively surprised when I heard that. Everyone said, this is a really good idea. And when I heard that, I knew I've hit the right time. You may have the right idea, but it's the wrong time. I could feel straight away, this is the right time. It's almost as if they had been waiting for someone to make this kind of suggestion. It's almost as if this society, this is a society that invites Ajahn Brahm and also myself to Sri Lanka. It is almost as if they had been waiting for someone to come up with this kind of suggestion. They wanted some project that they could actually get involved in. That was the feeling I got. So everyone was really, really positive. And so we agreed. So we're going to do something which gives good training to nuns and women, something which makes sure that they have really good support, that they have a good place they can stay, which is secluded and far away, but safe at the same time. And we can work with the Buddhist society here. We can maybe have a bit of an exchange program so that women here can go to Sri Lanka and experience the Dhamma in Sri Lanka, and maybe women from there can come here and we can kind of work together in this way. And teachings can be in common. One of the internet, there's many bad things to say about the internet, but one of the great things is you can have teachings going across borders and going in the whole world can be involved, and that's kind of a wonderful thing with it. And so that atmosphere was super duper positive. And then I said to them, there's only one problem. We haven't said anything to Ajahn Brahm yet, so we're going to have to see what he thinks about this. And I know Ajahn Brahm is like very, very uncertain what he will say. Yeah, he's just about one of the most unpredictable characters in the world. Which is why I love him so much. Because predictable people are kind of boring. You know what they're going to say, right? But Ajahn Brahm is never boring. It's always very exciting. And he usually has a very good reason for whatever he says, he has a good reason for it. And so I came back to Ajahn Brahm. I was even more nervous now. I was kind of shaking. What is he going to say? Brahmali, what are you doing? You can't go to make these kind of suggestions to people without, what on earth is this all about? Absolutely no. Go back, tell them there's no way this is going to work. Yeah. And so I kind of, Ajahn, I've done something bad. Please ask for forgiveness beforehand. No, I didn't do that, but, just in case. And so I gave Ajahn Brahm, I said to him the same thing I've been telling all those people. And Ajahn Brahm said, wow, that's a really good idea. Straight away, yeah? How often has Ajahn Brahm told me that's a really good idea? Very, very rarely. So I was very, very, very pleased with that. And then the last person, of course, that I had to convince was Ajahn Hasapanna, because she has to be involved because she's the head of the nuns monastery over here. And so I said to Ajahn Hasapanna, what do you think? And she also was on board with this project. And so that is kind of how this whole thing came about. So the idea then, once everyone is on board like this, the idea then is kind of established. What we want to do is establish a place in Sri Lanka that really does the training well. This is not very difficult to find in Sri Lanka as it is now. And so I think that we can add something very powerful and very beautiful. And hopefully, we can pay back. One of the things about Sri Lanka is that it has been a leading Buddhist country for so long. It is where the suttas of the Buddha were written down. And we all, as Buddhists, have a great debt of gratitude to Sri Lanka and Sri Lankan culture for what they have done for Buddhism for so long. And this is a way that we can maybe we can, pay back just a tiny little bit towards that debt of gratitude by supporting the Dhamma over there, and at the same time by supporting others of course, we support ourselves at the same time, because these things go together in a wonderful way. So this is the idea with this project, and I have been overwhelmed by the response so far. Very, very positive response. Already the donations are coming in, as I mentioned before. I don't know how much more I should say, but what we have, since we made this decision about a year ago, one of the first things that we had to do was to establish a society in Sri Lanka, because you have to have a legal body that can own the property, that can open a bank account and these kind of things. And we did that based on the Buddhist Society of WA, because Buddhist Society of WA has a very nice constitution, a very functioning system. BSWA functions really, really well. And so we have modeled the constitution and the society in Sri Lanka on the BSWA, except that we have simplified it a lot. Because the BSWA constitution kind of grows over time, becomes longer and longer and longer, right? And so we decided slash away 3/4, and kind of get to the core, and we start with that in Sri Lanka. And so it's modeled on that. As to the people involved, and maybe I'll stop there because I'm a bit concerned about talking too much. I can talk more about the details later on. But now the society is established. We have a legal body over there, and the bank accounts have already been established. I'm not sure if they are quite functioning yet, but they're almost there. So things are really coming together. So, I talk too much. Okay, so that is just to give you a little bit of a background. But one of the things that I am wondering about is what is Venerable Karunika doing here? Yeah, she's sitting here next to me, and I haven't even mentioned your name yet. What is your kind of involvement here? Can you please let us know?
So Ajahn, do you remember you inviting me to join this project?
Did I? No,
yeah, you did.
Really?
And I would like to ask you, why did you invite me? Can you actually speak to this? This is maybe quite important to know why you invited me. I can tell you why I'm staying, why I accepted the invitation, but why did you invite me?
It's a very good question, isn't it? Yeah. So why did that? Maybe that was a mistake. Yeah. No. Now, the reason I invited Venerable Karunika is because the way that the constitution of this society in Sri Lanka works is that you have a lay committee, just like you have here at the BSWA. We have a spiritual director. The spiritual director is a bhikkhuni called Venerable Sela, who was at Newbury Monastery, also staying at Dhammasara for the rains. We know her very well. She's a very, really well-practiced bhikkhuni in our tradition. So she's a spiritual director over there. But then we also have a monastic consultative committee. And this kind of the idea is to have an oversight committee to begin with, to give advice to the society in Sri Lanka. And so, we had to think. So I had to thought, well, who should we have on this monastic consultative committee? And the first person I thought of was myself. So I thought, maybe I should. So I asked around, do you think it's a good idea if I go on the monastic? So I put my own name down. That's kind of how things are. Because if you take initiative, you have to kind of follow through a little bit. Yeah, it's not because I think that I am indispensable, anything like that. Far from it. But once you take some initiative, you have to kind of follow through. And then I thought, who else should be in that committee? Well, I don't want Ajahn Brahm to be there because he's already overworked, and he can kind of just be the spiritual head behind the scenes. He doesn't really have to be directly involved. But Venerable Hasapanna is an obvious person, right? Because she is a leader. She has proven her ability to lead a female community of nuns and lay women, and so she is the obvious choice. Then I thought, who else has that ability? And I knew straight away who the right person would be. And that was, of course, Venerable Karunika, because she has been leading Santi Monastery. And, from what you have seen and what I have seen, she's a very good teacher. She has very good abilities, in my opinion, as a leader, a good understanding of how the Dhamma is to be applied in these kind of situations. And she has basically, and she also has a very kind of straight idea about things, a very clarity about things. And I've always been impressed by her ability to see through the nonsense and understand actually what is required in this situation. So I thought I would invite her. And I thought I didn't know what she was going to say. When I invited her, I thought maybe she would say, no way, I'm not going to be part of this. But she accepted, and I was very, very happy. But so why exactly did you accept my invitation?
Yes, Ajahn, that's. I was actually delighted. I was really waiting for something like this for a long time to happen, right? And this started long ago. I'm going to tell a personal story because I am from Sri Lanka, born in Sri Lanka, and grown up there, and also a female. So just what life was like, and what an incident. So I had my education in Sri Lanka, and after my A-levels, I went to India to do my first degree. I finished my bachelor's, and I came back to Sri Lanka with a degree in botany. And then wondering what to do after that. You know, just a degree in botany doesn't get you a job that is probably enough to live that well. You probably have to do a little bit more, or you have to just get married or have a business, do something. So I was just there at the crossroads of my life, having completed one level of education and wanting to know what I'm going to do next. And I had a cool mom. Some of you know my mother was not a very traditional, typical mom. She actually asked me, and she was at the time in USA for a long time, and she had some money. She actually gave me all the money she had saved and said, you can do whatever you like with your life. And you know, she gave me all of that, and I wasn't sure what to do. You know, sometimes I was at the time about 22 or 23 years of age. I mean, a bit older than teenage, but still, you know, still not sure what do I want to do. And at that time, I actually had a very strong calling, if it is to be called. I reflected back at the time, I didn't know what it was, but it was a spiritual calling. I didn't realize it. I tell you one incident. One day, I mean, at that time, because my mom was not in the country, we didn't have a home anymore. I was staying with some of our friends. And early morning, maybe around 3 o'clock at night, I woke up. And I had this really strong urge to go to a forest, to a monastery, to a spiritual place. And that is really what I wanted. But, you know, as a 22 or 23-year-old girl, and I actually didn't know at that time where would it be a good place to go. There were really no known established nuns monasteries or retreat centers that I knew of. There may have been some, but not very popular. You know, it's not very well known. So I couldn't think of any place, but I had this pull, almost like a magnet. What I did was crazy. I just left home with a bag. I went out. I mean, my poor host didn't even know they were fast asleep. That's how I was drawn. I just left out of house. I didn't even realize how dangerous it was until I got into a bus, which was pretty empty without anybody. Then I got off at some spot because I sort of had an idea where I wanted to go, and there were really scary people. I was really realized, my goodness, this is really dangerous for a young girl to be at that time of the night or early morning. But I'm quite strong looking, like also tall. So I just walked very firmly, very confident lookingly, you know, into one direction, and I arrived at a station, Peradeniya station, and I stayed there because I realized this is a stupid thing to do, but now I'm already out of house. And then I actually caught a three-wheeler, and I asked them to take me to a monastery on top of the Hantana mountain. I don't know where Ampitiya Sri Rahula Thero was. He was a bit well-known. A forest, beautiful, really nice, sweet old monk, a forest monastic who was meditating. Because Sri Lanka also has a lot of city monasteries, but there are also these forest places. And I was drawn to go to such a place. So I arrived in this monk's monastery. Again, I didn't realize that it was even inappropriate for a young girl, a woman, to just arrive early in the morning. But the monks were really kind. They sort of thought what's going on. They probably realize there's something important or something. And luckily, one of the monks sort of knew my parents. So he invited me and asked whether I have had any breakfast. I haven't had any breakfast. So they gave me some breakfast. And then the head monk, Ampiti Sri Rahula Thero, said, you arrived at a good day. Today is the full moon day. It's Poya day. But of course, at their place, they don't have a SIL program, like a 8 precepts day. But he said, some of my family usually comes on the Poya day and observe 8 precepts. If you would like, you can join them. So that was great, because that's what I wanted, to stay at a forest monastery, do something spiritual, listen to some Dhamma. So I did that. So after the end of the day, of course, I have to go back. I really didn't want to go back. I wanted to really stay at a monastery, a forest monastery. That's how strongly I felt. But of course, no choice. I can't just stay at a monk's monastery. So at that time, then I had a little chat with the Bhante, because also there was a few things happening in the background. So I was also thinking, of course, becoming a nun or doing something like this was not in my agenda. Why? Because it was not seen. I mean, becoming nuns and things was not happening really in Sri Lanka at that time. This is 1998. So I told him, I'm not ready to get married. I'm not interested. In fact, at age 9, I already decided I'm not getting married or having any children. And then I'm not really interested in doing any sort of business or anything else. So the only other obvious thing to do was to do higher education. So I don't know also why this is very interesting, that I decided that I would like to come to Australia of all places. My mom was in USA, and everybody's dream is to go there, and she was inviting me to go there, but I wasn't interested. For some reason, now I know it may have been karmic. I didn't know anything about Ajahn Brahmali or anything at the time, but I was drawn to come to Australia, and I was like applying all around the different universities. So I told this monk, Bhante Ampiti Sri Rahula Thero, my plans, but I said, I don't feel like doing any higher education. I feel like I want to do something spiritual with my life, and it's very conflicting to do like a PhD. It's kind of ego building and doing more when you feel like the uselessness of that. But he looked at me very straight and very kindly, and he said, go to Australia, do your studies, you will meet Kalyana Mittas. He really said this, not knowing anything. I'm sure he didn't know anything about what was going here. He didn't know which city I was coming to also. So that was very comforting to me, because I was really confused of what to do, because there was this very strong spiritual urge. And then there was this, what else can I do? My mom is not there, nothing is there. What am I going to do with my life? So okay, when he said that, I thought of, okay, I'll listen to that. And then I arrived. And it's interesting how even of all the places I chose this Perth to come. But then the first family I met here were going to Ajahn Brahm's talk at this center. So in my first month since I arrived, I got the opportunity to come to the Dhammaloka Center and listen to Ajahn Brahm, and that was really interesting. To first time I heard the Dhamma. So this is just a story to say, but I think I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are other people, even in this very audience, who also, not having had much choice, who also felt like me, who had that urgency, spiritual need, but not having any choice. Some of them got married, had children, got stuck into life. Luckily, I managed to stay away from that, and somehow my maybe strong karma brought me here and got me into this path. But since then, I have had this strong feeling to do something, because I know there are people in everywhere in the world. I mean, not just Sri Lanka, every country, everywhere, but especially in Buddhist countries, because we have been exposed to the Dhamma much earlier on. So since I have started my monastic life, I have had this wish and intention to want to support Buddhist women, not just who wants to become nuns, but for anybody to have places that are safe, places where good teachings are available and conducive conditions to practice and walk this path in whichever condition. Like, in the sense whether either monastic or lay or whichever way, but to be able to have good conducive conditions. This was a priority that I felt, that a thing that I should do, I should help. So in 2017, I went to Sri Lanka to get some treatments, and also I had with me Ayya Tataloka, one of the very senior nuns, who was the one who was the preceptor for the first bhikkhuni ordination in Australia in 2019. So 2009. 2009, and so I was with her, and together when we were there in Sri Lanka, we spoke about this, and we even spoke to some influential people, and we actually did establish a small trust with the view of starting something. But it wasn't really the right time. Like Ajahn Brahmali said, things have to have the right time as well. It wasn't really the right time. Also, we didn't have the right kind of people, anybody to stay there on ground to support this, and it wasn't my time to be there in Sri Lanka to try and do this either. So it didn't really take off, but that was the seed. I mean, I already had this kind of wish. And of course, when Ajahn Brahmali said, I've just initiated this, I literally jumped up from my seat and said, yes, I would be very delighted to be part of this project in whichever way I can to help. And this is why I'm here, and I'm really keen and delighted to be able to help in whichever way it is possible.
Excellent. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That's wonderful. So I'm wondering, Venerable, is this a good time to show the video of Sri Lanka, maybe some of the sites in Sri Lanka? Is that nice? Have you got that video ready over there? Yeah, because this will give you some idea of some of the Buddhist sites in Sri Lanka, just to have a bit of a change of pace of things. So. Okay, thank you. That is what Sri Lanka looks like. It looks like one large kind of archaeological site. That's kind of Sri Lanka for you. But it's also a living Buddhist culture. There's also living Buddhist monasteries. It is not just all ancient stones. There are some new stones as well in Sri Lanka. So when you go there, you get this mixture of the ancient and the new, which is kind of what makes it a very interesting Buddhist culture in so many ways. But I would like to carry on our conversation with Venerable Karunika. And I would like to ask you, Venerable, what is your vision for this training place? How do you see it as empowering women, etc.? And how do you kind of see this thing moving ahead?
Okay, so we have discussed this and thought about what would be most helpful. Given just my story was just a one story of a person, right? Just this kind of people are there being helpless and not being able to walk the path sometimes properly, not having conducive conditions, but also often under the influence of many other forces. So we wanted to have a place that is independent. So what is something that is unique about this training center? It is a place for women and largely run by women. There will be the support of the monks and men, of course, as supportive, but it is special and unique in that way. Another thing that is unique about this place that we want to create is that it would have instructions given both in Sri Lankan Sinhala language and also in English. So that widens the possibility not just for people from Sri Lanka, but from around the world. So non-Sri Lankans can also still go and practice for women and nuns to practice in a very beautiful, like Ajahn Brahmali mentioned, in a traditional Buddhist country with all those environment. But also this center, another thing that is unique about this we are planning to do is it will be run by the early Dhamma Vinaya, which is also very rare, which is quite special, which is nice. So, and good quality teachings, good quality meditation instructions, and hopefully teachers being available instead of just books. So all of that available, and also safety, because for women it is also a thing. If it is in the forest, which is a very nice secluded place, but that is the kind of place that we hope to have it, but we want to make it sure that it is also safe, so women can practice in safety with all the conducive conditions. So this is what the vision is. So to sort of promote the early Dhamma Vinaya and a place for women. And this is how I see that it will be empowering women to take charge, and also leadership, and also spreading the Dhamma, learning the Dhamma, growing in the Dhamma. And so I think, that's what I would like to say.
Okay, very good. Oops. Okay, great. Okay, so what else should we talk about? What else are important things?
There's a question for you here.
Yeah.
Where do you see this project heading next? Could you walk us through the key phases where we started, where we are now, and exciting developments ahead?
Okay, I think you can probably answer this question just as well as I can, but I can start it off and you can maybe carry on, Venerable. So so basically, as I mentioned before, we have already established a legal body, a society now approved by the Sri Lankan authorities. So we have a legal organization, which means there is a monastery can be built based on that, and they can take donations and all of these kind of things. So we have a proper legal structure. And that is the most important thing, because once you have that, then you can actually buy properties and these things. You can go up into the hill country. The hill country is what it is known in Sri Lanka. The places up that are higher up where the climate is more conducive. And so already now, the Venerable Sela, who was the spiritual director with the help of Venerable Karunika, already looking at properties over there, looking for a suitable place. And that suitable place obviously requires quite a few qualities. Would you like to say something about the qualities of a suitable place?
I think you had a good idea.
Yeah?
Maybe.
Okay, well, so a suitable place would be a place, one of the kind of beautiful things that you find in the suttas. You find an explanation for what is the best kind of monastery. And you find this, especially, this is where King Bimbisara wants to give a place to stay to the Buddha. And then the King Bimbisara thinks to himself, well, what is a suitable place? Well, it should be not too close to the city, so it's quiet at night and not too noisy during the day. It should be fairly close to the city at the same time, so people can go there when they need some advice, they can go and have a chat. It should be, what else does it say in there? I think those are the two kind of main criteria. I think it kind of elaborates on those things in quite a bit of detail. And it should be easily accessible, so people can get there, so not too far away, easily accessible, but quiet at the same time. Because it's a difficult balance to kind of achieve, quiet and easily accessible. There's a bit of tension there between those two qualities. And so this is kind of the thing we would be looking for, hopefully, in Sri Lanka as well, a place that is quiet, but close enough to be well supported. And it has to be easily accessible, not too difficult to get there. And one of the kind of important things for women in Sri Lanka is the place has to be safe. Yeah, it's very easy for places to be unsafe because of whatever kind of. I don't really know what happens in Sri Lanka all that much, but there's always a danger when you have a community of women. And so these are basically some of the main criteria. So secluded while also easily accessible and safe. And so this is what we are looking at now. And I think, when do you expect that we might find something?
Before going to when, I also want to say how fortunate we are here in Australia, both in Dhammasara. We have like a almost 600 acre beautiful natural forest, and the nuns live in kutis just like the monks and practice so freely in the forest. In Santi, it's even better. It's only 150 acres of the property, but next to a few thousand hectares of national park with caves, with waterfalls, with, really wild forest. And where in the world do we get such opportunity? It is really conducive for the practice to be in the forest, in that natural environment. And it would be really fantastic if something like that could be there for women in Sri Lanka. There may be places, it's hard to find out, the information is not there. This is also one thing I hope we can do as we progress with our societies, to connect the people, sort of make everybody known, and we can sort of have a central place where we can offer teachings for whoever who need, support for whoever who need. With that, we'll also get to know other places. And also, if this project works well, and if we can establish something like a pilot project, then people can, if they're happy, they can clone the same thing. So we can have a tradition of forest monasteries forest training centers, monasteries, whatever it is, but places in the forest for women to practice, which is rare in the world. So I was thinking, it would be nice if you also have a property with caves, waterfalls, all available. And we have seen few such properties, but of course we don't know. Until we have funds, we don't know what we can get. But to get an idea, we have a rough idea. We're thinking about maybe about 20 acre property, somewhere there, maybe 15 to 25 kind of is a good size to begin with. And in that kind of environment and country, the property prices are very, very varying in Sri Lanka. It's also quite expensive. So something that is safe, something that is not prone to flooding, slides. We have to consider these things as well as it being romantic and nice. So if we are to get a good quality property, it may go from around about 500,000 Australian dollars to about $1 million. So that is why our first phase of finances or fundraising, we are targeting at least raising about $1 million. But by the time we hit at least $500,000, we should be able to more seriously look at land. We have seen suitable land, but we will be able to make more progress by that. But by the way things are happening, I get the feeling hopefully before the end of the year, we may have a property. Let's see how lucky we get. But we are on the lookout. But it is also a matter of how soon the funds will come and what will be possible. Yeah.
Yes, very good. That's marvelous. And maybe we have a chance to see the property here.
Yes,
Yeah,
maybe.
I know that. Not I was going to say venerable Lehar, but that's kind of not. Because I meant Lehar. She's in the middle of organizing a pilgrimage to Sri Lanka. So, and maybe one of the. Am I allowed to say that, Lehar? I'm not supposed to say that. I said it already. So see, this is the way you do it. You say it first, and you ask permission afterwards. It's always like that. Always ask for permission afterwards. So we are going to organize a pilgrimage to Sri Lanka next year, probably around this time, maybe a little bit earlier. And if we have a chance, we might go and see the property as well, if the property already is in existence at that time. And one of the reasons we show this video is to give you some idea what you can see when you go to Sri Lanka. It's kind of extraordinary. It's like walking back in time and kind of seeing what the forest, what it was like at that time, and then see the living culture at the same time, of course. So just giving you a heads up that this is going to happen. But one of the other things, once we have a property, we have to, next thing is to build. Yeah, you can't just sleep at the root of a tree. Yeah, you have to actually have, have some nice cuties and things. Yeah. Do you want to say something about the buildings and things, Venerable?
Sure. I'm sorry I forgot to get the drawing out. I'm really sorry about that. We, together with the committee and Venerable Sela, had come up with some ideas, because it has to be from them, because they are the ones who are living. It is not for myself, Ajahn Brahmali or Ajahn Hasapanna, who live in a different place, to sort of come up with what would be good for them, their conditions. So of course we respect their views. So they have come up with something which we fine-tuned and discussed and came up with. So in the initial phase, we are looking to build like a central communal facility, if we have funds, which will have facility for dining, for meditation, and a few rooms to stay, and maybe a few huts, but in like a visual distance, so that it is a bit safe. Until we get familiar around the villages and all that, so we are more secure, feel established, and then we might also have more kutis built a little bit more far, giving more seclusion. And then maybe bigger dining facilities and meditation hall. But one thing with Sri Lanka, we definitely, also here we have that as well. We will also need a female and a male caretaker to take care of the place for all of these things, like a driver and somebody. So we will build these kinds of facilities, but more like a central, a little bit like Dhammasara main monastery complex. Things are a little bit close by to begin with, and then we will spread out into the forest. I think that's the idea. Yeah.
Sounds nice. I would like to see the drawings, actually.
Yeah,
can we
maybe
see the
after
drawings?
lunch.
Can we show the drawings?
I don't have it. I don't have it. I forgot.
But we have it. You have it on your computer or something, right? So we can email it. Which email address should we send it to her?
Yeah.
Which email address? AV.
Yeah.
AV. Okay, so we send it to the email, and then maybe, Lehar, this is my suggestion. Can we start the quiz 15 minutes early? Because people usually have extra time. So we start the quiz at 12 till 1, then we have half an hour in between. We can show the drawings, and we can also show the second video, because there's another video to show as well in that half an hour, and then we can carry on with the nuns afterwards. So it's a new plan already. So I apologize for changing the...
Very Buddhist.
Very Buddhist.
Very Buddhist.
Yeah, very
impermanence and change.
And arrival. Exactly. So that's that's great. So what else do we...
I think it's good to mention a little bit about how people could help, like not just here, but globally. How can you participate if you are inspired, and what can you do? Well, right now, as I mentioned, finances is the most prominent thing. That's the main help we need. So if you are so inspired, you can get in touch with the BSWA or with myself at Santi Forest Monastery through our website. You can find our contact details, or with Ajahn Brahmali, and then you can say, you can do your own little fundraising events. And I can tell some inspiring things that already happened to give you some ideas. some people, some very generous, kind people, offered some of the land they had in Sri Lanka. So not because it is probably not suitable for what we need, but the idea is that you would sell the land and then donate the funds from that for the project. That's one way. There's a couple of offers like that's already happening. And then there was another family who sold all of the jewelry they had and raised over 33,000 Australian dollars and donated all of that jewelry money to the project. And two of our nuns from Santi Forest Monastery and Dhammasara, they went on a charika, a walk in Tasmania to bring out awareness and raise funds. And we didn't think much about it, but we raised over 22,000 just by that from global people, because it went through social media. So I saw where the funds were coming. It was coming from all over the place, from all kinds of people, which is quite nice. The idea of a project like this, I'm sure, these have its own way of unfolding. Funds will come, but it is the opportunity for as many people to contribute. This is the beautiful thing about big project, like even by $10 or $10,000, it doesn't matter, but more people contribute even in a small way or big way. That's that feeling, because having actually been part of the Dhammasara building project and being involved in fundraising, the biggest joy I had was not just, the buildings coming up, that's great too, but the joy it gave for the people to participate. Even now people come and say, we planted this, we donated that, some small and big things. This is the beautiful thing. So this is great. There will be many, many opportunities coming up as we go to the next phase, especially when it goes to the building phase. Of course, if you are in Sri Lanka or even on holiday in Sri Lanka, if you are in an international destination, you may be able to go and join one of the Sramadanas. I think that is donating your time and effort to do some work, and be part of that building, of that place. It is, so there are many ways. So probably we will have a site, or at least through the BSWS site or through Santi, you will get to hear what's going on and different phases as they evolve, and then you will be able to participate. So that's what I would like to say.
Yeah, thank you. That's marvelous. Isn't that wonderful? It's so inspiring to see how people are, what they're doing actually, and some people are really kind of going out of their way to really support this. It's absolutely wonderful to see. So this is already bringing a smile to my face when I think about that. What else brings a smile to your face when you think about this project?
When I think about this project, what brings a smile to my face is that anybody, this is my really heartfelt wish, at whatever age they are, if they really want to walk this path in whatever form they are, may they have enough places. There are so many women in the world. I have been approached by so many, not just from Sri Lanka, from around the world, who are wanting to walk this path and not having the opportunity, not having enough places, not having enough teachings and guidance. And if we can contribute towards that, just knowing that we are starting something which will probably go and proliferate or multiply into something beautiful, offering women opportunity, empowering them to walk this path just like men and monks and others. So that would be really great. But it is also for, anyone really, because there is also people who consider themselves binary, so they are welcome. We don't have a distinction. So we have that kind of inclusivity with our projects. So all are welcome, and it'll bring me a smile to know that it took me from the time that a strong spiritual calling came when I was 23. By the time I was really getting onto robes, I was 35. And some I know some ladies who are in this audience, they are now past their 50s. They still didn't get to fully get in because in the meantime, they got stuck with a husband and children and work, but their inclination is there. May that not be the case. Whoever young girl who is ready, may they be able to start their practice then and there. right? So that'll bring me a smile.
That's wonderful. Yeah, you have to ask me the same question.
Yes, what will bring you a smile, Ajahn?
So one of the things that I know comes out of a project like this, when you provide good facilities, you provide good teachings, good meditation teacher, the suttas or whatever, and you allow people the time to practice by themselves. Over time, you develop some very powerful people as a consequence of that. And so I know that what's going to happen as a consequence of this, we're going to get some really good nuns as teachers in the world, and some already we're seeing that happening from the Dhammasara monastery, and we're going to see more of that when we provide these really good facilities. And so this is kind of, I think, one of the most important things, that ultimately we kind of pass on the baton to the next generation, providing really, really good teachers. And I think we have a far better balance in the Buddhist community when we have both good female teachers and good male teachers kind of coming together. That's when we have a really good balance, because I think they complement each other in a wonderful way. So that kind of makes me happy to think about that we're doing something that kind of carries the Dhamma along and brings more fruits as a result. That is, we have only talked about a fraction of what we want to talk about. That's usually the case. But we still have a few minutes before we have to go for lunch. We're supposed to stop by 10:15, but we don't have to stop by 10:15. So I would like to ask anyone, because I feel we've been talking too much. We haven't been involving the audience enough. So if any one of you would like to comment or question or say anything of any kind, please feel free to do so now.
Thank you, Ajahn, and thank you, Ajahn Karunika. And it has been moving 1.5 hours, 1 hour and 15 minutes. And it's, I can't express how happy we are, and to listen to your the account of where it is now and where it is going to be, and what's the outcome is going to be. I just have a very quick question that the retreat that is going to happen in March, and because it is on an auction, I think maybe all the funds that will be raised through that retreat, through auctions, will be going straight into this fund. So I think that probably might also induce those sutta junkies to come forward and then put more bids into the auction. So that's, I just wanted to get that clarification. So also I think even though Sri Lanka is a Buddhist country, I know a case, I know the nuns are practicing through very hardships, and I know a particular, I don't know personally, but this was probably 15 years ago, one of my sisters said they are helping a 10-precept nun who is looking after her mother and living in a very small thatched house which someone has given. And they had no way when they came to know even to pay for the electricity bill. And so they were helping her. And so when we came to know, they were in a very small ways, and we also got involved with her. So that is the level of support that some of the practicing women in Sri Lanka get. Not all, of course. Then at one stage, I know our good friends here, Chetasi and Ramani and all, they collected, probably it was about 15 years ago, for the Dekanduela. You all collected funds, and then we all joined you. And so I gave that address. I got it from you, the address. I have forgotten after that, and gave it to that my sister and asked her to give it to her. But she couldn't go because she was still looking after her mother. Those are the predicaments that the women practicing in Sri Lanka, or anywhere, I guess. So this will, I am sure, go a long way to alleviate those problems. And so therefore, I think we have got a very good opportunity to help those who are there ready to go. That's all I just want to share and ask the question. Thank you.
Can I add to that? Yes, for me as well, I think this project is not just about this training center itself, it's more than that, it's bigger than that, because if it was just one training center for just a bunch of people, it's not good enough for John. So it is more than that. It is also, like I was saying, to find out and spread the news, so whoever nuns or lay people who want support in their spiritual journey, that they can get in touch, and hopefully we can have what we call maybe master classes, or like a high impact short periods where some of the expert monks, nuns could go from time to time from overseas, as well as we can invite people from Sri Lanka too, and conduct classes and opportunities to meditate, and also give other support, material support, medical support as well, because it has to be something like that once we have an association dedicated to empowering Buddhist women. So yeah, because we've heard many stories like this of nuns, of people. Yeah, there's a question over there.
And let me just answer Ananda's question about Jhana Grove and about that retreat. So yes, all the proceeds from the retreat in March next year will all go into the project. So usually, so this is not considered a BSWA retreat, so it's considered like a hall hire. So usually the person who hires the hall will then have to make a donation based on how many people attended. But for this particular retreat, Jhana Grove is not taking any donation, but all the proceeds will go into this project. On top of that, I should mention as well, Ayya Karunikā just did a weekend retreat, not this weekend, last weekend, and the donations made on that day in Jhana Grove also goes into this project. Ajahn Brahmali is going to be teaching a sutta retreat end of the month. So anyone who is making a donation in Jhana Grove on that day will also go into this project. So BSWA is definitely behind this project, and that's why we have been looking at all other opportunities for people to contribute directly. And the other thing I want to quickly just touch base on is the people online may not know who are the attendees, right? Who are here present today to actually listen to this. I think I want to say majority are Sri Lankans, but we do have other, how should I call it, people from different countries. And so we have Chinese, Malaysian Chinese, we have Aussies, we have, this is not just a Sri Lankan project. It's a project to support women, and it's not just women in Sri Lankans, because after the project is established, there's females all over the world who can do that. But I thought what's quite interesting is the fact that I got an email, was it like 2 days ago, where someone asked, he said, oh, my mom would like to attend this event today, and he asked if he has to register. Then I said, oh no, you don't need to register, you just come for the event. And then I thought, oh, I'm not sure whether the person or the mother is here. Then I saw he left his mobile number, and I saw it's +94, which is Sri Lankan's number. So I emailed back and I said, and by the way, is your mom here or in Sri Lanka? I said, oh no, my mom is in Sri Lanka, and she would like to attend the event. So which makes me think that a lot of people are kind of like looking forward to it. And there might be, pretty much like what Ayya Karunikā you've just said, there might be women who have missed out on trying to become a nun because the opportunities, the conditions were not right, but now we are kind of like creating this for future generations. So, and I want to emphasize, this is not a project only for the Sri Lankans, but all of us will benefit from this project. Sandra, you have a question?
I was just going to say that on Wednesday night I'm actually flying to India to go on pilgrimage, and then I'm going to Malaysia because it's the International Sakyadhita Conference. So Sakyadhita translates as Daughters of the Buddha. It'll be a massive conference with well over 1,000 people there. So I wondered if, I know Ajahn Manisara is going, but is there an opportunity for BSWA to be promoting this project at that conference?
I think now it is a bit too soon. We haven't
soon?
planned for that this year, but this project has many years. So maybe in a future one we can do it. It's always nice to plan ahead, and I think a future event will be okay. Yeah, the pace is good for us right now. We have to also pick the right pace to move forward. So I think it is good to not just hold back right now. The level of information is okay for now, I think. Yeah. That's okay.
I'm
Thank
happy
you for
to put
thinking about
flyers
it.
on the table. That's not a big effort.
Yeah,
But
no. I think the pace is good
Okay,
for now.
sure.
Yeah,
No
thanks.
worries.
Thank
It
you
was
for
just
the
an offer.
yeah.
Okay, so shall we? Donna? Yep. Okay, so everyone be back at what time? 12. Ajahn Brahmali just changed the time. So see everyone. Enjoy your lunch.